This is Max Gullickson with Southbridge Community Television, and I'm here at the McMahon Field today on a beautiful day on the 9th of June with Jasmine Rivas. Hi, Jasmine.
Hi.
We're here for a bit of a sad occasion. This is the memorial, the gathering for George Floyd in honor of the man who was just brutally killed in Minneapolis. And you're the one who is organizing this event?
Yes, I've been speaking for the past few weeks. I do a lot of work with our local police department and Chief Woodson, and we had been talking about this incident and others like Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and we just really talked about our community coming together.
You talked with the police as well? With
the police department and with our faith community, Pastor Esteban Carrasco and Pastor Kathy Light. These are very serious topics, and racism has been prevalent in our community, in our communities, our country, for such a long time.
These events are going on in many communities throughout New England. Do you think they're cathartic? Do you think these are helpful for people? Do you anticipate change or anything like that coming from these events?
I'm hopeful. I think that they are cathartic. I think that people coming together and being able to express all of their own experiences and really be heard, I think, is an important thing in this first step in making change. And I'm hopeful that there can be change out of this. How
many folks do you anticipate coming out today?
I'm hoping about 100 or so. That's kind of like what we with a response. So about 100 or so.
Locals too, local leaders.
Yes, so we have our town managers here and our town councilor, Dave Adams. I anticipate the receiver will be here. We have city councilor Christian King from Worcester, who's here, is going to be one of the speakers today.
Oh, thanks for talking to me, Jasmine. We've seen you around town. You're active in a lot of town events. And I wish you the best. Mark and I are going to be running around doing little films of it. Maybe we'll talk to you later. But thank you, and the best of luck, and I hope that it's helpful for a lot of people.
Thank you. We do too. Thank you.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Jasmine Rivas. Just here. We're here today to stand against racism as a community here in Southbridge, and I just want to talk a little bit about how this came together. For the past, I guess, month or so, and all of the things that have been happening in the news and across our country, I've had conversations with our police chief and members of our police department and our faith community, basically a lot of different people in our community, and how much pain and sadness and outrage we've all felt. And this, to our Black community, this isn't anything new that they've had to deal with for many, many, many years. As a Puerto Rican American, I can understand and relate to some of the things, but as a white Latina, I know that I benefit from white privilege as well. So I'm here as an ally to support our Black community, our Black brothers and sisters, and make sure that we do everything that we can to change what is happening and what has happened for far too long in our country. And I thought that this was the best way to raise our community voices and come together to find solutions in a way where we are peacefully looking for a way for these things to end. And we want to honor the lives of all of those people that have been murdered. And today in particular, we're going to highlight the murder of George Floyd, and we're going to have a moment of silence. We're going to be meditating and praying and reflecting for about 8 minutes and 46 seconds, which is the amount of time that he was laying on the ground before he died. And so today I just want to go over a couple of things in light of our other pandemic situation, right? So, it wasn't enough that we had a pandemic, right? So just to make sure, just some logistics, we have volunteers with hand sanitizer, extra masks, they're at the tables. Jasmine Quinones from the Kiva Center, they have a table up there. If you need a mask or you need some hand sanitizer, we have water. If people are thirsty, it's a really hot day. So we want to make sure that people stay hydrated, and we don't want anyone to pass out or anything because it's really hot. I love how everyone is working on their social distancing. So for the majority of the speakers, we'll have people sitting down on their mats. And then after our reflection and our meditation, we will do a march around the track, and everyone can kind of come out into the track and we'll march around. We can march around 3 or 4 times. It doesn't, whatever you want to do, whatever you're comfortable doing. At that moment, you can hold up your signs, you can chant, and that'll be an opportunity for the whole community to have a voice. So our speakers will open up our speaking with Pastor Esteban Carrasco Jr. from the House of Destiny Church.
I would like to thank those that organized this time, this event, for the opportunity to stand before you, to lead us in prayer as an opening prayer. But before we open in prayer, I would like to say a few words. As a minister of the gospel, I'm a firm believer that every life is precious in the sight of the Lord. But today especially, we stand in solidarity and declare that black lives do matter. Later today, you're going to hear a list of names that will be listed of many individuals that have lost their lives at the hands of individuals that do not represent the majority of the great men and women who daily risk their lives to protect and serve our community. I, for one, am grateful for the work of our Southbridge Police Department. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Deputy. Thank you to the officers that are here. I come to you, community, today with a simple plea. And the plea is, prayer is just not about moving God's heart, but it's also about inviting Him into our hearts so He can move in our hearts. I truly believe that we need God to change our hearts in America. We need God to change us, to touch us, because God is a God of righteousness and justice. And I truly believe that justice will be served. I encourage all to speak against injustice, because that is our responsibility. We must also not just speak against injustice, but we also must speak healing to those lives that have been touched so wrong. They need to be healed. They need to know that there's a community that stands behind them and understand that injustice is still happening. But I must say, destruction and vandalism of our communities is not the answer, and it will never be the answer. As a community, we must learn to listen. We must learn to listen and to hear the cry of those that have been affected by injustice. But we must just not learn to listen, but we must respond with a heart of love. And that love is only found through Jesus Christ, who can change our hearts. You see, today, before I lead you in prayer, I will take a knee, not in protest of our great country, not in protest of our national anthem, but today I take a knee as an act of asking God to lead us, to correct us with the state of racism that is still existent here in America. I take a knee. And I say, God, look into our hearts. Remove all the wickedness. Because it was Dr. Martin Luther King who stated, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Lord, we need you today. Please sweep through our nation, sweep through our hearts, and heal our land. Restore our strength. Renew our minds. Cast out anything that is not of you that is within us. Allow us to be beacons of light in such a time of chaos. Lord, we pray for the families of the individuals that have suffered their lives lost. I pray that through your Holy Spirit, you comfort them. But Father, I am reminded of your word that states, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray and seek your face, you will turn from them their wicked ways and hear from heaven and forgive their sin and heal our land. Lord, we need your healing in America. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. And amen. I bless you.
All right. Our next speaker. Thank you, Pastor. Right here. No, I see you. I was thinking him. So our next speaker today is a good friend of mine, Pastor Kathy Light. And I want to say she is a wonderful ally, and I will let her speak for herself.
Okay, so I'm going to do this without a mic. That means a lot of yelling. Can you hear me? I'm going to talk about something that we don't want to talk about when we talk about racism, and that is white privilege. We don't want to admit that we have white privilege because white privilege somehow means that we're bad. We're not bad because we have white privilege. We're only bad if we don't do something about it. So what is white privilege? It's the extra perks that you get just for being white. Right? There's extra perks. You don't get followed around at the shopping mall. You don't get stopped and have to worry about your life being taken when you're stopped for some reason. You don't have to worry about people coming to your house. You can knock on a stranger's door and it will be okay. That's all white privilege stuff. We have to take that seriously. Now, I didn't want to take that seriously when I heard about this 30 years ago. I didn't want it. I said, no, I don't have white privilege. I'm just a regular person. There's nothing special about me. I'm just normal. That is the definition of white privilege. When you feel that you're just normal, that your race doesn't matter, it's because the white people feel that they don't have race, when in fact, we go around thinking we're normal. Maybe we are, maybe we aren't. I too am a minister, like Esteban, and I teach my congregation that as Christians, we have to look at things and look for truth. Truth is hard. Truth is hidden by tons of lies. We don't want to always see the truth because it might hurt us if we look at our own selves. But as we asked of God to come into our hearts and let us look at ourselves and see how our own white privilege keeps the systems of racism in place. Because you can't fix something if you don't know what it is you need to fix. And it's not just about being individuals, because I'm a nice person. I'm not a racist. But I live in a world where all the systems have been put together and upheld with racist attitudes. And it's up to me and it's up to you to start dismantling those systems one bite at a time. It's a hard thing that we are asked to do. And sometimes I feel very guilty. And sometimes I don't want to hear. But listen to your friends who are people of color. Don't talk, just listen. Because you don't know what someone else's life is like. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you. I don't have my mic right now, so hopefully I'm loud enough. Try to take this off. Thank you, Kathy. Welcome. Our next speakers are Tatiana King and Christian King, and I'll let them speak a little bit about who they are and why they're here. Thank you.
Hello. Can you hear me? All right, my name is Tatiana. I was born and raised right here in Southbridge, something that I am very, very proud of. I am an Afro-Latina Asian American woman. As a child, teenager, and young adult, I never self-identified as being black, nor did I think I would. How very ignorant of me. It took open and uncomfortable discussions with people that are black, along with educating myself around my ethnic and racial history, to truly, fully understand that I am a person of color, specifically an Afro-Latina Asian American woman. But it was my personal experience during my early and mid-20s where I was stereotyped, misperceived, and judged because of the color of my skin. That right there, those experiences, enhanced my understanding and awareness that inequality exists right here in this country, right here in this town. It is important for Latinos, Hispanics, Asians, every other race that's non-white to understand that we too are stereotyped and judged because of the color of our skin and what we look like. However, please remember that our experiences are only a fraction of what black people in this country experience on a daily basis. As we shouted in Worcester last week, we all have to amplify black voices. We should never minimize or question their experiences and their truths. You do not have to be black to amplify black voices. We have a duty to educate those around us that deny, do not know, or do not believe that structural, institutional, and systemic racism exists in this country. We have to be unapologetic when we hold ourselves and others accountable. As we all know, we live in a world where digital technology is very powerful. People are revealing themselves. They are revealing their attitude, emotions, thoughts, and beliefs about racism in this country. We have a moral responsibility to speak up and against injustice, inequality, and racism. What happened to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery are not isolated events. Please remember that. There are many people I grew up with that have completely shocked me with their own ignorance, racial and prejudicial views. And some that I can say I'm not surprised. However, there are many from this town that are not afraid to speak up. I want to give a special shout out to Sarah Hebert, Sherry Lee Ryder, Mike and Ashley Arastia, Lisi Velez, Idalise Rivera, Janessa Aponte, my sisters in Dariana and Elise, all of you and the countless others who are allies for this cause and refuse to be silenced. Give yourselves a shout and a round of applause, please.
Yeah.
It is time to coalesce and be conscientious about activating our supports and allies and uniting to ensure that every Black life matters, every Black experience matters. The police force here in Southbridge is much more diverse than it was when I was growing up. It's great to see a diverse police force that reflects its community. It'll be greater to have a police force that is aware and understanding of their implicit, unconscious, and conscious biases that they hold as it relates to people of color. It'll be greater to have a police force that can appropriately de-escalate situations. It'll be greater to have a police force that has the courage and bravery to report their fellow colleagues who are abusing their power to protect and serve all. It'll be greater to have a police force that is able to integrate and establish positive and trusting relationships with their community, specifically communities of color. This is possible. I will always remember and cherish Officer Rosa, Joe Dingui, and Dwayne Ledoux, police officers that had a positive impact on me, our community, and many other children, teenagers, adults, and our elderly. And I am confident that police officers like Jose Alteri, a good friend of mine while we were growing up, along with Jalen Doughton, will continue to positively influence and shape this community, the community of Southbridge. One last very, very important reminder. Please do not lose sight of the power of voting. It is our civic duty and responsibility to vote. I know many of us have become very discouraged throughout the years around the impact and the power of our vote. Our vote is so important. People fought and died for our right to vote. Please vote. Voting helps shape and influence local and federal legislature. You can impact representative government right here in Southbridge, making sure that people that are in positions to create and develop laws and regulations about your community have similar values and beliefs. This impacts school funding, the hiring of teachers, police officers, your parks, right? Small businesses, sidewalks, and even how the town handles potholes during the winter. I am very, very proud of the town of Southbridge. A special shout out to Jasmine Rivas, who's developed a positive reputation for being a community activist and organizer. Though I have lived in Worcester for the past 11 years, I never forget where I came from. And I'm honored to be able to come back and give, I'm honored to be able to come here and give back in any way I can. I continue to stand up and speak up and against others who talk very, very badly about this town because of our makeup. We all have a duty to speak. Speak up, speak out against injustice, inequality, and unfairness. Don't be silent. Don't ever be silent. Together, we will all unite and influence change. Thank you.
That's my wife right there. That's my wife. I'm Christian King, and I don't live here in town, but it's often that Leani, Tatiana, and I are at Abuela's house, or Abuelo's house, the Mari and Luis Correa, and when asked to speak, I didn't know I was going to follow that. I'll just be very brief. You know, when I think about Southbridge as someone who's new coming into town, you begin to see all the brown folks who are active, who are professionals, who are engaged in their community, who fight for their schools. My wife talked about voting. I'm going to tell you to run for office. Run for office. Run for school committee. Run for select person. Speak up. Stand up, run. I happen to be a city councilor in Worcester. When I was elected, I was the first male elected since 1936. And in 2016, the first black male. And I'm the first black male ever to serve citywide. And they told me I couldn't run and I couldn't win. Don't underestimate your worth. Don't underestimate your strength. If you're a coach, if you're a young folk and you're playing sports, if you're a community activist, a mom who's at home, daycare provider, professional who works out of town, don't underestimate your value and your worth. And the other thing I want to mention is why we're here today. We've lost lives. Let's, as my wife said, focus and keep the narrative moving forward. I'm not talking about the other things that have happened. I'm not talking about that. We have a platform today because lives have been lost. If we focus on folks who are making bad decisions before or after rallies or events, it takes away from the narrative. They have a platform. Their platform was created through death. Through death. And I'm not interested in Worcester or anywhere else becoming defensive. No need to defend. Symbolism speaks for itself. We have officers here. I don't need to sing praises. We're here to talk about the loss of lives. George Floyd called for his mama. He said 16 times, "I can't breathe." Let's say it 16 times. I can't breathe. 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 With me. I can't breathe. Come on. I can't breathe. 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 Southbridge, don't underestimate your worth. The efforts of the chief diversifying is important. It's as important to speak up and stand up. And for our black and brown communities, we gotta ride together on this one. We gotta ride together, and we gotta ride harder. God bless y'all.
Thank you. Thank you, Tatiana and Christian. Leaders everywhere. And just a little bit about voting. Today in the town of Southbridge is our town election. Polls are open until 8 o'clock. If you are a registered voter, you better be there after here. I'm going to be there. I'm going to look for all of you. We have some candidates here. We have Jackie Ryan running for town council. We have Michael Segura running for town council. We have Lori Angers running for school committee. I don't know if I forgot anybody else. I'm not sure. Oh, Gus. We have Gus Steves here. Right here running for town council. And we have Denise Clemens here. We have Denise Clemens also running for town council. Denise, you want to wave? So please get out and vote. That is our voice. That is our power. So, without further ado, we have a student. Her name is Shayla Jones. She's going to read a poem for us. And she's a 6th grader. You ready? Give us some love. Give us some love.
Hello, my name is Shayla, and today I just wanted to say, we stand here today to speak up for those who should and need to be heard. Today we will shine for those who need light, for those who need hope and better life of equality, love, kindness, and peace. We stand here against violence and systematic racism towards colored people. I want to help build power to bring justice, healing, and freedom to colored people. Let's give justice for George Floyd. He matters, and others like him do as well. We will not stay silent until we bring justice to show Black Lives Matter. We will make a change for the Black people dying every day. All I can feel is sadness. Young children shouldn't have to be worried about their mothers and fathers dying based on their skin tone. Let's help these families see hope and change. Help show that colored people will be treated the way they should be treated. Stop police brutality towards colored people as they are some threat. They are no different from each one of us standing here today. And today we will show them that they matter. They are the same and will have the human rights they deserve.
Thank you. That is the future of our community. Our next speaker, we're going to have one of our town officials say a few words. Our town councilor, Dave Adams.
Can everybody hear me? Good. You know, I had a hard time trying to figure out how I was going to speak today because I am who I am right up here right now. It was tough. And if anybody knows me, knows where I came from in a city called Santa Ana, California, you'll know that probably the diversity out there was greater than it is actually here. I had a hard time figuring it out, but I went back to two fundamental things that I love: history and my personal life. When I taught my students about racism, I try to keep it simple, though racism is not simple at all. But I try to teach them that a lot of us here to this day, especially the older generation, would receive U.S. history classes. And those U.S. history classes would talk about the melting pot. We are the melting pot. In a lot of ways, yes, we are. But it would also talk about being a quilt. And that quilt had different fabrics and different patterns and different threads and different makers. And that's a great thing. But what they failed to mention, as I grew older and became a father of two beautiful young ladies, that there are holes in that quilt. And that quilt had holes because we had a thing called racism. We realized that quilt didn't have the proper fabric sometimes. It didn't have the proper threads. And it didn't have the proper makers and those proper leaders to instill in us the values that my mother and father talked about, where they raised me in that community. So I try to keep it simple with the kids and to understand that how do we fix this issue of racism? How do we mend that quilt that America is supposed to be about? You keep going after it. You keep going after those racists. You keep going after racism. And you keep fixing those things even though you're tired. My second part is personal, my own life. I have 2 beautiful daughters, 3 awesome stepsons, beautiful wife, beautiful home, great life. But I had to understand one thing. I have a beautiful white daughter, but I also have a beautiful black daughter. I have a brown brother, and I have a brown sister. I have brown nieces, and I have brown nephews. My family makeup is America. That's what it's about. And I have to agree with the pastor. But one thing I do when I sit down with my daughter, and I talked to her yesterday, she's 28 years old. And we had to have a conversation again. And from day one, her mother and I had that conversation. Though it may be difficult, but you gotta be real to your children. And where does it start? Right at damn home. To understand it. I love both my daughters equally. Through God's eyes, no doubt about it. But there is a difference. And my daughter, who's 28 years old, understands that. And that's okay. But her sister, 2 peas in a pod, helps her. And I will agree with the pastor. I will listen, and I do listen. I also give advice based on where I came from as well. Not that I lived in anybody else's shoes here, regardless of color, creed, gender. But I'm very proud of my daughters and my daughter, who has to go through life sometimes at different stages than my youngest daughter. I want to thank the chief. I want to thank the deputy. We have great conversations about racism. We have great conversations about his police force. It is very diverse. Where I came from, it wasn't diverse. There was no understanding. They left. They did their shift, they left. So I appreciate and I stand with you guys, and I understand at the same time that there are hard decisions that have to be made down the road sooner or later when somebody messes up. But I respect you guys and what you're doing. And I just want to thank Jasmine. I want to thank you for taking an opportunity for me to speak today, to have an understanding where I came from and what I understand to this day. Last thing, thank you. I will say this, and we talk about voting. Not just go out there and vote. Don't just register and not show up. Go vote. You have an opportunity in this country. I served my country for 26 years. And I know countries, you don't have that opportunity. Don't take advantage of your opportunity to go vote. Don't take advantage of your opportunity to actually go out there and volunteer for a board. Make the change, even when you're tired. Even when you're tired. I want to thank you. I thank everything that you guys are doing. And again, Jasmine, Hart, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. A lot of passion here. A lot of passion. So, I'm going to introduce our chief, Woodson. And I want to say that we have a lot of conversations all the time, and sometimes I do yell at him.
She's the only one.
We've been friends for a long time. We've known each other since we were kids. And Jose, we go around a lot, and we are in a lot of boards, a lot of committees. And this is our community. And we want our community to be the best that it can be. We want our young people to flourish, and to all our young people, every single one of them. And we're going to fight for them every single day. And I'm going to introduce our chief because he is committed to that. And I think, as Tatiana said earlier, this police department looks nothing like it did in the 80s and 90s. And the people standing up here have a lot to do with that. And I'm going to introduce our chief now. Chief Woodson.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Jasmine says I have a big mouth, so I don't need the mic. Just thank you very much for giving me the opportunity today to speak. You know, it's not about me. I'm here to support everybody that's here. Just so the people that don't know me, a little bit of my history. I've spent my entire life here. I was born and raised here. I left for 4 years, but I spent the last 25 years of my life serving everybody in this community. And more importantly than all that, all the police officers that you see here now, or many of them, the majority of them, also spent their lives growing up here, part of our Cops and Kids program, which we'll talk about later. They got their educations here. They may have left, but they seem to come back. There's just something about Southbridge. So we're a unique community in our police department that most of us are from here. We live here, we eat here, we breathe here. We're invested in this community. And I don't know a lot of departments that can say that, but I know we can. Since becoming chief, my goal every day has been to improve the relationships in our community. And Ms. King had mentioned it earlier, but I'll tell you, I took over in 2016, and my mission has been to make our department more diverse. I don't believe that you can have a good, working, functioning police department without a buy-in of the community. So the people that work here have to reflect the people that live here. And that's big to me, and that's been a push for me for 4 years now. So I think just by looking around this field today, you know, I think we're all, not me, but we're all, the department, the town manager, the elected officials, are doing a pretty darn good job at creating a diverse workforce. You know, we can see you guys here today, but more importantly, it's I hear you, we hear you, the deputy chief and I hear you. We understand it. You know, remember this town, it's your town, it's my town, it's our town, and we're all here today, every single police officer for our department anyway, to support this community in a peaceful protest. So thank you for having me, and without further ado, Deputy Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Most of you don't know, he's a Henry Street boy. He grew up on Henry Street, so he's right from the community. He used to play ball down on Henry Street, lived right on Henry Street. So, you know, we got a chief that grew up in this community, knows the problems of the community and supports us. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Deputy Chief of the Police Department. My name is Dingui. You know, it's a sad time we gather here today, but we gather here for change. I ask you to hear me out. I stand before you in a police uniform, but behind this uniform was an angry kid who hated police. But that hate grew into motivation to make a change in my community. So let me share a couple stories. I can remember when I was in high school, what memories. It was a great time. I remember growing up in Southbridge in my neighborhood, my stomping ground. I was born on Main Street, 600 block, Union Street, Cross Street area. I was labeled as a 600 block boy by many. I can remember like it was yesterday walking out of my building, 592 Main Street, and instantly being surrounded by police. Detectives were everywhere. I quickly got thrown against the wall, jacked up and searched, demanding where are the drugs. I had none. I then looked up at the second story floor where I lived, and I saw my parents looking out the window. I could still see their hurt in their eye. Their teenage son getting treated like a thug, like a drug dealer, and they couldn't do a thing about it. Brushed off, no apologies, and sent off on my way. They said, we'll get you next time. I told myself that day, I hate cops. I'm a good kid. I'm a 3-sport athlete. I was doing everything right. I stand before you today as the second commander of the Southbridge Police Department, a boss of all the police officers in town. I don't say that to brag or boast, but to let you know you're the author to making change happen. I know a lot of you know me as coach or maybe as a Cops and Kids cop, but my story didn't come without struggle. I'm here to tell you that you are in a position to change society. My passion to change the police station started with that police interaction. If you would have told me that I would be a police officer when I was 13, 17, or even 20, I would say, let's keep it real, hell no. It wasn't happening. And I'll tell you why. I was 16 now, heading to Riverside, or Six Flags, what it's called now. I was in a lowrider Toyota, windows down, nice rims. My hair wasn't blowing in the wind because I had the curly hair about it. We were bouncing around like bobbleheads. I was pulled over in Southbridge by some trooper. Made me exit the car, and I wasn't driving. Searched me, found a piece of paper in my pocket. He looks at it, he says, what's this? I said, my homework. He threw it to the ground and said, yeah, right. He brushed us off, and we went on our way. Yes, this is still the same day. We end up in Springfield at the Rotary again. We get pulled over again. Twice, going to one place. At this time, this police officer pulls us out. He ends up arresting the driver, saying there was an active warrant. And I remember I told you I was 16 at the point, and left me there, towed the car, and arrested. So I didn't even know where I'm at. I'm 16 years old. I didn't want to call home because I'll probably get a beat down from mom and dad. So I started walking around looking for, there's 4 precincts in Springfield. So by the third one, after 3 hours later, I found them. They finally released him. They impounded his car. They said it was a false identity. We took the bus home. You know, of course, me being a kid, I never told my parents that, and I'm ratting myself out right now. So, so at this point, I really don't want to be a police officer. There's no way that I even want to don this uniform you see me wearing today. Each struggle in life, you can use it for negative or positive, motivation for good or bad. This teenage phase of my life, I can recall vividly how cops treated me, how I felt I was being harassed, rightfully so. I choose to use those interactions in my life, and how I use them is mine and mine alone to do. Don't let people of ignorance define you. Let those acts inspire you to be stronger and motivate you to change society. Prove them wrong. The same officers that harass me, I stand before you as their boss. They motivated me to be the police officer I am today. They motivated me to be the police officer that I am today. Start the Cops and Kids Summer Pride program to build positive relations with our youth because I hated the way I was treated as a youth. The foundation of my inspiration was that. I stand here telling you, the same people that were tearing me down or judging me inspired me to become who I am. Don't let those acts of racism create hate among us. So when I became a cop, my mission was to make a diverse police department that reflected the community. Tear down walls between youth and police. Destroy racism. We actively recruit from our Cops and Kids program. Our cops spend time with our kids, even in the White Mountains. We have a 6-week summer camp. We feed our children. We spend time with our children. We give toys out at Christmas time. We give parades to our community. We solve problems in our community. Look at the faces that serve you in this community. We are the community. We reflect change that has broken down many walls, and as long as the chief and I are allowed to work here, we will continue to tear down walls to better our community. In closing, this movement has momentum to create a better society where your skin is not a factor, where we can come together united. Let that anger be your inspiration to be part of the change. Don't turn it into violence. I stand here in a department that is, as said many times today, one of the most diverse from the top down. We reflect our community. We put our community first, and we hear you loud and clear. We are Southbridge United. And our motto at Cops and Kids is together we can make a difference. And you know I'm going to add this, and together we will. The nation's listening. Let's change it.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chief. So we have another one of our students that is going to speak. Sahara Woodson. She is an upcoming freshman at Southbridge High School. Very proud. Hi guys, how are you doing? I'd like to give a quick shout out to my friend Khalil here, helping me come up with this real quick. In all honesty, at first I did not want to give this speech. I was afraid to get up here and speak my truth and have no changes happen. I was afraid of feeling hopeless, but the truth is, I already am hopeless. I cannot have a simple, fun childhood because of the color of my skin. Whoa. Excuse me. Childhood because of the... I must always be aware of how everyone else around me sees me. Ultimately, what I want is respect. Respect for myself and others who look like me. I want respect for every gender, race, sexuality, and age. But right now, I stand in front of you because black and brown bodies are under attack in our country. We are being killed by the police as if we don't matter. As I said, at first I did not want to be here in front of you all. Now I stand here to say I matter. My life matters. Our lives matter. Black lives matter. I do not know the impact my words will make, but I hope they will connect us, make us feel united, and recognize regardless of who you are, and remember, we are all in this together. I deserve a childhood. I should not have to serve the consequence of having black skin. I should be laughing with my friends and stressed about schoolwork. Please care about my childhood. I want to have a fulfilling life just like you. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful job. So our next speaker is Carol Torres and Hannah Abubakar.
Hi guys. So my family has been a part of the Southbridge community for the last 8 years. And prior to living in the community, I worked alongside some awesome people, providing resources and social service programs to some of our community's most vulnerable youth and families. Like many of you, I watched the murder of George Floyd with complete disbelief, heartbreak, and outrage. My heart is heavy. I have struggled to find the words to say because I've been so concerned with what people may think or how my words might make them feel. We all have seen and experienced the hatred, judgment, and divide spread across this country. I am not standing here before you today to claim that I have all the answers. I am standing here today to share my perspective. As a black woman, a mother of black children, and a proud wife of a law enforcement officer. My goal here today is to help educate, advocate for a much needed dialogue, and more importantly, our action as a community to work together to end systematic racism and the injustices that are here in our communities and our country. Racism is real. Hate and brutality is real, and it's in our country, and it's happening in our communities every single day. I know that this is an uncomfortable issue for many of us, but we must find the courage to acknowledge the issue so that we can work together to fix these problems. We must all do our part to make this a better community and country for everyone, regardless of the color of their skin. We must take the time to listen to the voices of people who do not share our perspectives or our beliefs. We cannot allow fear and hatred to distract us from the real issues. We cannot move forward divided, and we cannot have change if we do not acknowledge our problems. I am proud of my husband, and I respect the work that he and his colleagues do each and every day. I have my niece standing here with me, and it's no secret that Southbridge cares about its community. The police department cares about this community. However, the score between communities and law enforcement is not new. But Cops and Kids has been changing the narrative and strengthening relationships in this community for many years. Cops and Kids has been a big part of my kids' childhood, and they have welcomed, mentored, and embraced my kids. I'm not sharing my experience to diminish our suffering in any way. I am sharing because reflecting on my positive experience with law enforcement has helped me to be more open-minded with all of my heartbreak, anger, and pain. As I look out at all of your faces today, I want to say I do believe that we have a good community. However, we have the opportunity to be better by doing better. We have the opportunity to speak up, to ask questions, and have those awkward conversations. But most importantly, we have the opportunity to take action. It is time to embrace what is working in our community. But most importantly, it is time for us to stand together, strong against racism. White, black, brown, and yes, blue. We must hold ourselves and each other accountable. If we see something, we must say something. We must get involved and be a part of our solutions. White, black, brown, and yes, blue. I'm talking to you. My hope today is that we can all come together. My hope today is that by coming together, our children will experience love, happiness, and equality. We cannot change the world with only ideas in our minds, but by the conviction in our hearts. Thank you so much for listening. God bless Southbridge and God bless America.
Thank you. Our next speaker, I'm really proud of this young woman. I've known her since she was in high school and she was an Aspira student. We knew she was going to do good things. So, this is Rosa Berto.
Hi everyone. Can everyone hear me? First off, yes? Great. Okay. So let me start with Black Matters. If you can repeat it with me, Black Matters. And once again, Black Matters. Black is beautiful and Black matters. So let me just start with, I was not born in Southbridge, but I lived in Southbridge for many years of my life. Once I graduated high school, I left Southbridge and moved to Rhode Island. And for the last 6 years, I've been a resident of Providence in Newport. I've been living back here for the last 4 months, and it was shocking to me to see that not much change had happened in those 6 years that I was gone. I'm here today because the most important thing is that for our community to realize we are diverse. We have been diverse. I remember being colored in school, and that has not changed, and there continues to be students of color and employees of color, and we still continue to be a diverse community. So we need to stand up today. This is not about politics, this is about society. This is us knowing and recognizing that Black lives have not been the main point of focus for the past decades and centuries, and it needs to be. There's been quite a lot of injustices going on People have been getting killed. Our brothers and sisters are getting killed, realize it or not. And just as a quick reminder for all of us Hispanics here in our community, we are mixed. We were born, we were made because of blacks, we were made because of the Taínos, and we were made because of the Europeans. So you are black as well. Please keep that in mind. You are black, I am black, we are black. Keep that in mind when you're out there. Don't go with you're gonna mess up our race if you marry someone who is black. That is not happening. In our race, we have black. We all have black. So with that being said, let me just remind you all, I went on a protest earlier last week, and I asked everyone as well. The first thing to combat racism is we have to start with ourselves. You have to look inside of you. You have to start looking at what your stereotypes are. What are your biases? What are those things that hold you back from having communications with others who look different from us? Start with that. Once you figure those things out, push them to the side. You know, just push them over a little bit. Go out, watch some documentaries, read some books, do some research, and get involved. After you do that, go out in your community. Be part of activism. Go try new foods out. And also remind your kids, remind the kids around you that it's okay to be friends with someone who is of color. It's okay to date someone who's a different color from you. It's okay to travel. It's okay to know. It's okay to have those conversations. I am not going to push you back if you have a question, and I'm sure no one else is going to do that as well. So please ask those questions, have those communications, have that conversation, and that's how you acquire knowledge. Once you acquire knowledge, you can actually start combating all of the issues that we have, systematic issues that we have in our community. So please be an activist. And from Southbridge, I commend you, please take a step. We have been a diverse community for years. So take a step in recognizing that we are diverse, that we have black people in our community, and that all of the Hispanics that live here, you are black. You are black. So please start recognizing that and start taking a step. I commend you, and I please, I'm asking to hold a second protest, hold a second march later on in the day, on a weekend where more people can be involved, where you can spread the word, where you can invite people to come, in a public place where people can't hide, where we can't hide, where you can't hide that we are black and that we are here, we are a presence, and we matter. Start doing that. Let people know that we have a presence. And please continue on with conversations. Teach your kids tolerance, teach your kids love, and teach your community as well. Have those important conversations and get out there and show that we matter. Black matters. Thank you.
We are going to march after our speakers, after our silence. We are going to march around the track. So I'm going to have an educator come up and ask me to speak today. Bill Batista, one of our teachers in Southbridge Middle School.
All right, hi everybody. My name is Phil Batista. Real quick I'm gonna make this really quick. I know everybody's hot, but I came to Southbridge because I met my wife, who grew up here in Southbridge, who's now Gracie Batista, and I ended up becoming a teacher here. I just finished my 4th year as an 8th grade math teacher. So many amazing kids who touched my lives in amazing ways, and I didn't even know this was happening today, and it was about like 1:30 where I found out, and I really felt a feeling inside of me like I had to be here. And like it got to the point where like I couldn't think straight, and I'm trying to prepare lunch for the kids, and my wife can even say that this happened. I couldn't think straight, and I felt like I had to be here. So last minute decision, we ended up coming, and then last minute decision, I decided to speak. I want to make this quick. I don't want to forget to thank people. So first, one of the worst things that can come from this is the police officers lose the value that they have through this, because there is a lot of value that the police bring to our community, so make sure we give them a round of applause. Second, to Jasmine and all the other people that put this together, I think this is really important for voices to be heard and everybody to be able to express themselves. Thank you, Jasmine. And last but definitely not least is you. I mean, you're sitting in a hot weather right now. Some of you have kids with you, and you were willing to come out of your homes to be here, so definitely give yourselves a round of applause. All right, so I have two quick things I want to talk about. The first thing is, in this debate, when there's people that do not agree with us, the last thing that we can do is use words to demean. If you are in a debate with somebody with someone and you want them to open their mind, you cannot demean. You cannot throw words that are putting them down. So when you are having these debates with people that do not believe in what you believe, make sure that you are doing it respectfully, because if you do not, you are wasting your words. The second part, and it's the main reason why I wanted to speak today, with all this happening, me and my wife are always talking about what can we do. You know, I mean, there's so much going on, but what can really happen? So that's my message here, is what can we do, okay? I want to quote Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, for those of you that don't know, he spent 27 years in prison fighting this fight in South Africa. 27 years. And they actually won the fight. And in South Africa now, many, many things have happened. Tremendous change came. So I felt it was powerful to quote Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela's quote is, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." The saddest part about what happened with George Floyd is that it's not the first time. History continues to repeat itself. If you go back to 1955, Emmett Till unlawfully got beaten to a pulp and then hung by a tree. In 1991, Rodney King on television got beat by police, by many police. We still did not learn. And now it's 2020, George Floyd, for a fake $20 bill, lost his life in broad daylight, unarmed, not threatening anybody. History continues to repeat itself. So what do? Well, we go back to what Mandela said. It's all about education. It's not enough. Let's start with our parents. It's not enough for parents just to tell your kids, hey, treat everybody kindly. That's not enough. There's way too much history in this country that needs to be spoken about to our kids. You need to Google, you need to YouTube, you need to watch videos with your children and teach them so history does not repeat itself. There is no such thing as a 2-year-old bigot. Bigots are groomed. They are not born. So we need to make sure we are educating to avoid that. Next comes to the kids in the crowd. Kids, you got these phones, you use your Snapchat and your Instagram. Why don't you go on YouTube and find out the history of that racism in this country so you can really understand what is going on? I look around the crowd and I see some fellow teachers. Me, myself, have a bigger responsibility to use my voice in my classroom to teach the history of this country. It's not all roses. Now, we do live in a great country, do not get me wrong. But there are many, many bad things that are avoided in a classroom that need to be spoken about. I think I got everything. So I'm going to end it again with that quote because I think it is so powerful and is so important. Imagine that. He spent 27 years in prison fighting that fight and was able to get out one day, and they won that fight. Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. I challenge you, when you go home today, learn something new about this country, learn about the negative things, because they are important. Because if we do not learn, history will continue to repeat itself and nothing will change. What can we do? We can educate ourselves, educate those that we have an influence on. And that's what I wanted to say. If you've ever been in my class, one of the things I tell my students all the time is control what you can control, right? There's so much we can't control in what's going on in the world, but the thing that you can is continue to educate, continue to spread this knowledge. It is very important. Thank you so much for being here, and spread love, not hate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Batista. Can I have all my educators stand up? Just stand up where you are. Now our students, look around. These are the people that are here to support you. In this hot sun, on this hot day, they came out because Black lives matter to them. So give them a hand. Thank you. And with that, we're going to end our speaker portion with another educator, an educator from Worcester, who is also a poet, Ashley Wonder.
Go Ashley!
Can y'all hear me without me using this?
Yes.
Yes? Oh, so awkward. It is a lot. Hello? Yeah, okay. So I want to acknowledge the land that we're standing on right now is Nipmuc land.
Yes.
For all the tribes and lives that were lost. I don't know enough information, so I'm going to Google information myself, but I do know that much. So here's a poem that I wrote after everything. Popped in chest, knee to neck, lungs collapsing of breath. We aren't human to them. Numb, eyes no longer cry themselves a river of another name who never wanted to be remembered this way. Slogan of repetition, we aren't human to them. Black men loved their family. Would have given anything to make it home safely. Embrace to hear I love you. Say I love you. We love you. People they never met, chant their names in streets, poems, hashtag spot, wage for change, the process. We process the cycle of bullets, pierced in chest, knees to neck, lungs collapsing in death recorded. Familiar trauma that is numbness. No more room to cry, there's no more room to cry. We are breathless. Woo! Woo!
Thank you so much. Beautiful. So thank you. Thank you to all the speakers for sharing your experiences, your thoughts, your feelings. We are here to support Black voices and work together to break down systemic racism. And we all know that as a light-skinned Latina woman, I acknowledge that I too benefit from white privilege. I also know the rage of hearing a white person call my dark-skinned mother a monkey in a department store and witness not one white person in a position of power come to her defense. And lastly, as a mother of two young men that I love with all my being, I know how I would feel if one of them lay on the ground with a knee to his neck, crying out for me and dying at the hands of someone sworn to protect him. And as we think about that, I want you to join me in 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence to honor the life of George Floyd. After the silence and the reflection, we will march.
I have a question. You speak about diversity. Well, what's the point of having diversity if we don't have equality? Why would we be diverse in a community with people who still look at us as others? Right. Why must our bodies and being in places be marginalized and isolated because of our skin tone? Equality has to be talked about instead of diversity. You get jelly beans, but you pick out the ones that you don't like, but they all come in the same bag. So when we speak about protesting and marching for Black people and Black bodies and brown bodies, we must speak about the institutions that separate the equality. We speak about voting. We speak about voting, but most states have voter state ID laws, and the majority of the minorities can't get ID, so who are we voting for? We have court cases that put people, the jury, to reflect the person on court, but if you have a felony, you cannot sit on the jury. How does that reflect the demographic of the person being prosecuted? So people, please speak and be conscious. Though we are diverse, we are not in a mentality or a setting that thinks diverse. We are in the same mentality, in the same setting that perpetuates the people who came and stole the land, raped the land, created language that reflects their skin color, stripped individuals of their native language. When we speak in our native tongues, we're outcasted. So when we speak, understand that we're speaking to the beings that look like us. Toni Morrison spoke about the white gaze. It's the idea that white people have to be at the center. When we say all lives do not matter until Black Lives Matter, you are insinuating that you still have to be at the focus point of our existence. We are beings outside of your existence. So when we stay in silence and you leave here today, understand that when you see your people that are black and brown, you have to look at the institutions that treat them differently. Thank you.
Hear you. Yes, absolutely yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. So we're going to take our 8 minutes, 46 seconds. And then we will hear all of our voices. And then we will call people to action, as our young brother just spoke so eloquently about action is what we need to break down that system. All right, 8 minutes. You can kneel, you can close your eyes, you can look down on the ground, whatever way that you want to honor the lives that have been taken unjustly. Long time to be without breath. Can't breathe. You deserve to breathe. We all deserve to breathe, and let's march. I want to hear voices, loud voices rising. This is your time to use your voices for our young people.
That's right, you did, didn't you? Hey guys. Hey, Dan. You guys heading back over to the...
No peace!